This is Get Real with Bob and Stacey, the show that helps you learn about the mortgage and real estate markets. Get the inside scoop from their expert list of guests and have some fun along the way. Now, here's Bob Gallagher and Stacey Alcorn.
Welcome back. You're listening to Get Real with Bob and Stacey. You're joining us for our Leaders and Legends segment. Joining us by phone today, we have Daryl Weber, brand consultant and author. Welcome to the show, Daryl.
Thanks for having me.
So let me give everyone a little background on Daryl. He has a new book coming out in April called Brand Seduction: How Neuroscience Can Help Marketers Build Memorable Brands, which explores the unconscious side of brands in a way that's inspiring for creative marketers. He's a branding consultant whose work has influenced many of the best brands in the world like Coca-Cola, Nike, Johnny Walker, Gatorade, Pampers, and many more. He was formerly Global Director of Creative Strategy at the Coca-Cola Company, where he oversaw brand strategy for many of the company's billion-dollar brands. And prior to that, he was Director of Strategy at Red Scout, a boutique brand and innovation consultancy. He has a BA in psychology from Columbia University, and he lives in Atlanta with his family. By the way, anybody can follow him at Branded Cortex on Twitter. So thank you again for joining us. What made you write this book?
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I decided to write it. It's something I've been thinking about for a really long time. I studied psychology and cognitive neuroscience undergrad, and then I started working in marketing. And as I kind of rose through the ranks and worked at different places, it kept coming back to me, this idea that while the understanding of the brain and how the mind works has been increasing and we keep learning more and more, that it's not really coming across and getting over to these marketers who could be benefiting from it. And some people had tried to, and then there were sort of hints at it, but it was really getting rejected. And finally I thought, okay, maybe this is my calling. I just need to actually sit down and write it, and hopefully try to bridge that gap a little bit for the neuroscience that exists out there, and the great advances we've been making in neuroscience, and just show how that can actually help us build much more memorable and stronger brands.
Daryl, what is neuromarketing?
Yeah, so neuromarketing is kind of this new emerging field. It's become kind of a hot topic lately, a bit of a buzzword. It means different things to different people. I'll give you my definition, which is basically just the use of neuroscience techniques to improve marketing. So that can be a lot of things. It started out as using sort of brain imaging like fMRI or EEG scans to see how people are reacting to ads. Say they're watching a TV ad or a print ad and seeing how their brain reacts to it. Mm-hmm. And the goal of that is to really sort of bypass the conscious mind and the biases that are at play there and get it to the unconscious drivers. And that's great, and there's a lot of uses for that, and that's been showing a lot of promise. There's been, of course, a lot of controversy with it. But my main issue with it was that the creatives in marketing and the people that I tended to work with kind of on the advertising side of things really didn't like it, right? It kind of was telling them, oh, here's how you need to do your marketing. Here's what's working in people's brains or what's not. And the creatives in marketing really think of it as more of an art, that they don't want to be taught and make it codified in how you should do it with these strict rules. So I wanted to flip that perception of neuromarketing actually, and have it be more about the upfront, have it be more a part of the upfront part of the conversation, where instead of at the end of the process where you've already created the marketing materials and now you're testing them, wouldn't it be better if we had just a smarter, deeper understanding of the brain and how it works at the beginning so that we can make our brands appeal to people more as we're building them? That's my goal in this book. Hopefully I'm translating that science in a way that's appealing and inspiring for those creatives who are actually building the brands.
Okay, this is totally off topic, so I hope I'm not catching you off guard.
I like when we go off topic.
And I do have more questions about neuroscience, but you know the ASPCA commercial with the animals?
Yes.
Like in the cages? I love animals, and I would give them money, but I cannot watch that. Like, is that somebody that did a bad, neuroscience study?
It's sad.
It's just, so hard to watch that people, at least I changed the channel.
And the music played in the background, too. My poor wife cries almost every time that comes on.
It's terrible. So help us understand it, Daryl.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's, a classic play where they're trying to really pull at your heartstrings, right, and tug at your emotions. You see the same kind of thing with, Adopt a Child kind of programs, where if you show a child in need, it's much more powerful than if you showed, say, statistics on how many children need, are hunger or starving or whatever. Showing the person or the animal, that'll really bring it home, right? But actually, one of the key points I make in the book is that emotions are this weird, confusing kind of thing that aren't really well understood. And I think people throw out that word a lot, and it's hard to actually nail down what a clear definition of emotions are. So it's popular in marketing now to say we need to reach consumers emotionally. And when you do ads like that, it's obviously very clearly tugging at people's emotions. But to me, it doesn't necessarily mean showing your emotions in your ad or standing for an emotion or owning an emotion. And that's where a lot of advertisers have taken it lately. What I argue in the book is actually what you're trying to build is more of a gut feel towards a brand, because that's how our decisions are made, by having sort of a feeling towards something. Like when you're picking, say, peanut butter, Jif versus Skippy, you're not having huge emotions tied to those things. It's more of a quick split-second decision at the shelf. It's not that, I'm having all these deep-seated emotions. But, marketers have kind of taken it to this very lofty level where they try to stand for big emotions regardless of the product or category. So I'm trying to clear up some of that confusion.
Yeah, interesting. So I know there's a lot of books out there on neuromarketing. How is yours different than the others?
Yeah. So a lot of those books are doing kind of what I said before, where they're focusing more on neuromarketing as this end process and as a testing for existing marketing materials. So I don't go into that much in my book. I'm not so concerned with how you're going to look into the brain at the end and see how consumers react to marketing materials and advertising. I'd rather so the whole first part of my book is really just what I find fascinating about the brain. The brain is this mysterious, amazing thing that works in kind of crazy ways. And it actually, tricks us and works in different ways than we think it does often. And this is just due to evolution, where it helped us sort of evolve and survive on the savannah millions of years ago. But today it's less relevant. But if you understand that and you understand why it's working in the ways it is, it can just make us smarter about how we're building brands. And I kind of lead that, so I go through sort of perception and attention and memory, and then talk about emotions and decision-making. And that's kind of the key, right? When you talk about building a brand, you want to get people to decide and choose your brand more often. So if you understand actually how decisions are made and how really irrational we are as a species, I think it just helps you become a better business owner or entrepreneur or marketer as you're kind of guiding and building that brand.
Yes. Did you read Predictably Irrational, the book?
I did, yeah, Dan Ariely.
Yes, so good.
Yeah, and I quote some of his studies in the book. I mean, one of my favorites is the beer vinegar study. Have you heard this one?
No.
I can tell you quickly.
Yes.
It's fascinating. And this is just one of those ways that humans are just so irrational. He went to a bar. This is great research.
I remember this. Yes.
Sounds like research Stacey wants to do.
Yes, I remember this story in the book. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Go ahead.
He got people to pay for his beers, I think. But he would show people at the bar two options of beer, and he would ask them, this one has vinegar in it, or the one that doesn't have vinegar in it, which do you prefer? And of course, given that choice, most people say the one without vinegar. Vinegar sounds disgusting.
Yes.
But when he didn't tell them that there was vinegar and just had them taste both options and say, which one do you prefer? Actually, the vast majority preferred the one with vinegar in it. And in the first one, they had tried it too and said, no, I don't like the vinegar option. So it's really just knowing that and having that bit of information before actually affects your perception of it. Now you don't like it because you know what's in it, right?
Yes.
And that's one of many examples, right, that just show we don't actually act as rationally as we think we do.
So talk about, I know in your book you cover brand fantasy. What is that?
Yeah, so I kind of coined this term, the brand fantasy, just as a way of talking about this sort of nest of unconscious emotions and associations that people have with a brand. So if you take an example like Coca-Cola, easy one, in their marketing, they talk about happiness. Their tagline for many years up until very recently was open happiness. And if you talk to people internally at Coke, they're all about happiness and owning this idea, and that's pretty obvious from their advertising. But really, when people think of Coca-Cola and they experience that brand, I think there's way more going on than just that sort of simple idea of happiness. There's kind of, it's Americana, it's nostalgic, you had it on summer days growing up, and there might be positive and negative emotions with obesity and sugar concerns, and there's just a ton that's related. And all that may not be top of mind or conscious really, but it's there in the back of your head, and it actually does affect and influence that feel you have towards a brand behind the scenes. So what I'm saying, your fantasy for your brand is kind of this collection of associations that people have towards your product or brand. And that's built through every experience you have with it. So where you see it, if it's on shelf or online, or who you've seen talking about it, and the price, the colors, all these very subtle things and nuances each add like one little piece to the pile of how you feel towards that brand. And most of that is not top of mind, you're not aware of it, but they all do actually influence your feeling towards that brand. So I'm just saying, if you recognize that and acknowledge it, you can help build and shape and mold that sort of collection of associations. You'll build a stronger brand in the process, rather than just focusing on that little bit of conscious messaging that most people tend to focus on.
So this seems like it's something that's hard, though, for like an average marketer or just not a massive brand, but a local business owner. How would somebody like us, Bob and I, both own fairly large businesses, but not as big as Coca-Cola. What are some tips on how we can create this type of brand fantasy?
Not as big as Coca-Cola yet.
Yes.
Right. It's always good to have goals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there's a few ways you can take this, and actually, I'm thinking about my next book down the line will be about more applying this to small businesses. Mm-hmm. I think this first book is a bit more geared towards bigger, but really any business can benefit from it. So some of the takeaways would be just realizing that everything you do as a company is branding. It's not just the marketing department. It's not your design or logo. It's really every experience or interaction or touch point that a consumer or end user is going to have with your business or company is part of building that brand. So that's, things like I mentioned, like pricing and distribution. It's part of how you talk and act. It's how your letters are sent. I mean, everything is adding one more piece to that pile, right? Mm. So it's just sort of realizing that and then aligning everything to that same idea. If you can be clear as to what your brand feeling should be. So most people are probably clear with consciously what they stand for and what their rational sort of features and functional benefits are. But if you can also then be clear on what your like brand personality is and what your mood and vibe and sort of soul of your company is about. I know that may sound sort of fluffy and a little silly even, but I argue in the book that it's actually very important, those things. And that's how people then, relate to brands and make their choice in the end, is that they have this sort of trust and gut feeling towards it.
Yeah.
So make sure that all those things are aligning to that same point.
That's really interesting. All those little pieces of our businesses that we don't even really think of as marketing.
Right. They all add up.
Yes, it all goes towards that brand fantasy. So how is all of this different than, say, subliminal advertising?
Yeah, people ask that a lot. I think that's something that's been talked about in culture, and I guess has been sort of a worry on and off. There was a famous study in the 50s that actually was a fake study where a guy said he proved sort of subliminal advertising by flashing really quick messages on a movie theater screen to buy popcorn or drink Coke. And he said, sales of those products rose while he was showing it. It turned out to be a hoax, a totally fake study. So it kind of died down from there, but then there's always been this concern that, are we being manipulated by marketing and advertising? And is this, what I'm talking about here, sort of helping that? I don't think it is, but I will say, so the way I think about it is that we're building stronger brands. That actually adds real value to people. When you relate to a brand and you like it, it actually makes that experience better for you. It's the reason why, a Nike shoe just feels a bit more special if it has that Nike swoosh on it, or why a Tiffany box in that blue color feels a bit special. It's because that brand has built something behind it. That actually adds value to the consumer. So that's what I hope I'm doing with the book. But then I will actually say that all advertising, in a way, is subliminal, because while it operates on the sort of conscious level of the message that they're telling you, the rational message, there is also this whole under layer of messaging that's happening, whether you realize it or not. And this is called meta communication. And I go into some detail about this in the book because I think it's important. And it's really, the point is how you say whatever you're saying is as important as what you're saying. I think we know that from dealing with sort of salespeople or public speakers. The feeling or mood that they're giving across matters as much as the points they're making. So in that way, you can almost say that all advertising is subliminal, right? Because it's all working at that sort of second level as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is so interesting because I was watching a piece. I don't even remember what it was for. I think I read about it in a book. But it's so interesting. It was about this old Nike commercial, and it was Nike's most popular commercial. Even there was a segment on Oprah about it, because basically when you watch this Nike commercial, it was all about how it was kids basically saying, talking about what their future would look like because they play sports, because they have sneakers right now. And logically, none of it makes sense. If you actually think about like the message they were trying, logically, the fact that you have those sneakers on does not mean that you're going to be an athlete.
Because I wear sneakers and I'm still not a pro athlete.
Or trying to say like, because they're an athlete, I'm going to be strong and be able to defend myself from things like that. So it's really interesting that we draw conclusions, I think, from advertising sometimes. I really want to know what the cover of your book's going to look like, because that's like the first piece of advertising for a book.
Yeah, it's true, and I'm working with a publisher, so I actually didn't have final say in that, unfortunately. But no, it's on Amazon now, Brand Seduction. If you check it out, I mean, there is a cover there.
Oh,
so,
awesome.
They took this idea of seduction and put it on a kind of a cologne-looking bottle, so it looks like almost a bottle of cologne, which I think is interesting. It looks sleek, I think.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And when does the book come out? Because I already want to read it, right this second.
I'm dying to read it.
Yeah, thanks, guys. It's Brand Seduction. It's out throughout April. You can find it in bookstores April 25th, which coincidentally happens to be my birthday.
Wow.
Totally
how about that?
Yeah, isn't that funny? It'll be out on Amazon and other online retailers. So it's Brand Seduction, how neuroscience can help marketers build memorable brands. And throughout April, so I'm very excited about the launch.
And anybody interested in learning more about Daryl, you can check him out at Daryl, it's DARYL, Weber, WEBER.com, DarylWeber.com, and his book is Brand Seduction, How Neuroscience Can Help Marketers Build Memorable Brands.
Great. Thanks for joining us on the show today, Daryl. I'm absolutely going to go. Can we pre-order your books now, or do we have to wait until they hit bookstores?
It is actually available for pre-order now, and you actually get a discount on Amazon for pre-ordering. So, I recommend that.
I will be doing that today. Thanks so much for joining us on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
So we're going to take a quick break for some commercials, but stay tuned. We've got more Get Real coming up after this.